Hi there, Dr. Dane with Mother Goose Chiropractic, your friendly neighborhood pediatric chiropractor, as we like to say. So I wanted to take a minute and address a wonderful topic, which when we meet a new family or a new child, we usually get asked, so what are the benefits of pediatric chiropractic? Why would a child need to see a chiropractor? And then once they're under care, what are the benefits that we see? So the top three, which are pretty awesome and what keeps us excited here day in, day out, is numero uno, better sleep. So whether it's a colicky baby, or a constipated kiddo, or toddlers that won't wind down at the end of the day, or youngins that are revved up after video games or screen time, what have you. Kids that don't sleep, don't make it through the night, they're coming in bothering mommy and daddy, or they're waking up fussy or crying or bedwetting or whatever it is. Across the board, when we start getting a child checked and adjusted, mom and dad always say, oh my gosh, they're sleeping so much better, which makes a world of difference, not only for the child, for their health and growth and development, obviously, because sleep is critical, especially for a growing and developing brain, right? But also for the integrity of your family, right? For mom and dad, because you guys have to recharge and get the sleep you need so you can be your best raising those kiddos. But children that are checked and adjusted, their brains and nervous systems idle nice and calm, nice and low. They're adaptable. It leaves all that energy for health and healing, and that includes self-regulation. So at the end of the day, not being revved up and stressed and, oh no, I don't want to, that it's easier to transition, it's easier to calm, it's easier to soothe. Okay, 5 minutes, another book, another story, and then we wind down for bedtime. As opposed to that wired, wide awake, I'm not going to bed, I want to watch another episode or whatever it is, another 5 minutes on Minecraft, wherever you are in that, however old your children are. But when a child's nervous system is checked and adjusted and their brain is calm and can modulate effectively, winding down, that bedtime transition becomes so much easier. And because that developing brain and nervous system is free of stress, that restful sleep creates more growth, more development, better recovery from the day. That's a wonderful thing. The second most common thing that we hear is that, oh my gosh, they used to get sick all the time. They had the sinus infections, the ear infections, the sore throats, the cough that wouldn't quit, the mucus, all that stuff. When we start getting children checked and adjusted, it's pretty cool that the nervous system, which is what we focus on at Mother Goose Chiropractic, and the immune system, they're actually the two most closely related systems in the body. In fact, researchers are starting to call that the neuroimmune system. That's how closely they are related. So if a child, if there's stress and tension in their nervous system along their spine, it really turns on what we call the gas pedal. That's the fight or flight system. It's a revved up, stress stuck on kind of a system. So if the body's stuck in stress, it doesn't leave a lot of slack or energy left over for immune function. So when we start getting a child checked and adjusted and we get the pressure off that system and their body starts healing and adapting more effectively, it frees up all that energy to boot up the immune system. So are they never gonna get sick? No. What most families tell us is instead of a chronic, cough, cold, whatever, that turns into an infection over a couple weeks, and then you gotta go on antibiotics and take the time off school, what happens with us is because our kiddos are checked and adjusted regularly, that immune system, that nervous system has all that extra slack to perform. So when they're exposed to, another sick kid or cough or cold or a bug's going around, their immune system boots right up and knocks it out, and they might be down for a day or two. I'm not saying they're gonna be symptom free, but cough, cold, maybe spike a fever, they're down for the count for 24 to 48 hours, and then they get right back in the game. But a lot of the full families we take care of say, you know what? All our friends are getting sick, all their classmates are getting sick, they're not getting sick. It's because we focus on the nervous system so the immune system can run as effectively as possible. And the third, and this is probably one of the most freeing things, because we're all about restoring health freedom to families when they come to us, when they're at the end of their rope, when they're stressed, when they've got a problem, in their health, their family, their children. The third thing, the most common thing that we see is better mood. All right, so I'm gonna get a little nerdy on the neurology here. So again, we're a neurologically focused office. That's why we see so many infants, toddlers, children. So again, if the spine and nervous system are irritated and there's stress and tension in that nervous system, it turns on that gas pedal, fight or flight kind of a system, which is like let me, okay, I gotta get out of here, what's going on? The brain is not comprehending, it's not processing info as effectively. And so kiddos become withdrawn and reactionary and, fight with their siblings or, punch, bite, and kick on the playground, or they act out and yell and get in trouble. When we start getting them checked and adjusted, it literally takes that stress and it unlocks it. It allows the body to release. And the brain says, oh my gosh, okay, there's no danger, there's no threat. And that brain, their nervous system idling high like that in that stress mode, it comes right down. So they're nice and even keeled, calm and connected. So they're better able to regulate their mood. They don't overreact as much. Moods and meltdowns and behavioral stuff becomes a lot easier to tackle and deal with, because instead of displaying an inappropriate stress response where they overreact, their nervous system is calm and connected, and they start learning to self-soothe, to articulate how they're feeling, to come up with strategies if the behavior is a pervasive issue. So one of my favorite things in the world is kiddos with sensory, ADHD, autism spectrum, and behavioral issues just kind of come along for the ride with that. That was kind of what, like, my childhood. So behavioral issues at go-go, I was in and out of the principal's office all the time. So nothing makes us happier than when we get a child's spine and nervous system assessed, and then we start getting them checked and adjusted, and they go from that principal's office kid to that student of the week. It's my favorite thing in the world, and neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic can help you get there. So if you found this video helpful, or maybe you have a child that something's just not right, and there are better answers out there, or they're struggling, we would be honored and happy to help. That's why we're here.